What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another Steelcraft knife to show you guys. If you watched the video yesterday, you'll know that I mentioned David, the gentleman who bought this my Steelcraft knife for me for Christmas as a gift. Also bought his business partner Alex a Steelcraft series knife. Alex actually has had a submission on this channel. The ZT0392SW, I'm sorry, 0393SW is his knife. So he gave him this as a gift for Christmas, and I wanted to show it off on this channel as well because it's also amazing. So let's go ahead and open this up. Much like mine, you have this sort of scannable registration card, which I'm going to awkwardly pull out of here with one hand. And then you also have your certificate of authenticity, which is, I didn't show it yesterday. It looks like this. If you want to pause the video and read that, you certainly can. And then you have the actual knife itself. Now this guy, this thing is a whopper. Let me get this out of here. Move that down. This is the new Glimpse 7.0. This is the large one. This is the one, if you are looking online and you notice that one lists as a 3.75 inch blade that's 9 inches overall, that's this guy. This is the model that has the G10 handles with the carbon fiber inlay, and then you have this inset steel liner lock on the inside. Versus, I noticed that there was also a frame lock version of this, at least in the Mini, possibly the other models there. This particular one has the black fuller on the inside. So if you like the way that this looks and you want this exact one, just make sure you check for that. Somebody, I would not have known this or even thought to check unless somebody had mentioned. And forgive me, I forget your name, but you'll know when I mention the conversation. You said, the WE Glimpse is also a great knife, and I thought, WE Glimpse, I was like, I'm about to do the Glimpse. I'm pretty sure that's Steelcraft. And I assumed that all of the Steelcraft series knives were collaborations between Todd Begg and Riot. Turns out this one is actually the Glimpse is a collaborative knife between Todd Begg Knives and WE. Which is another company that has come highly recommended to me, that does their manufacturing out of China. People saying if you want to try a really, really high-end knife that's made not in the United States, give WE a shot. Well, I can tell you right here before I even get into the meat and potatoes of this video, this overview. Yeah, if WE did this, amazing, incredible. I mean, I went on and on about the one yesterday, and a lot of the credit is, of course, due to Todd Begg Knives, but essentially between Todd Begg, Riot, and WE Knives, I mean, you must have like this amazing triangle of manufacturing and getting tolerances exactly right, because it's just put together so unbelievably well. This is a large, meaty knife that has this, you look at it and it looks, it's nicely contoured, but it's obviously a beefy knife. I mean, this is made for big hands, and Alex is a big dude. Alex, I don't know if I don't know if I'm going to get your height right, but I want to say you're 6.5 feet tall. This is a knife made for a big guy like that, so it works out really well. But this is a meaty, meaty knife. And it looks like it's going to be ultra heavy, and then you pick it up and you fire it, and it's all of a sudden it goes from this, like, I don't want to get the analogy wrong and make somebody cringe, but it's almost like somebody changing from this big burly power lifter into kind of, kind of like somebody with a little more finesse. So maybe a soccer player or somebody, I don't know. That's a terrible analogy. I don't know where I'm going with that. But what I'm trying to say is that it's very shocking, the elegance that comes with this. You almost expect this sort of meaty clunkiness to come with this big of a knife, and it just doesn't. It's not there because this thing is made so well. Beautiful, beautiful knife. You know, now all of a sudden, of course, I'm interested in taking a look or a closer look at Riot and WE alike. Just a beautiful knife all the way around. Let's do some size comparisons so you can kind of get an idea. First one we're going to do, just to give you a little preview of what's coming, let's put it up against the steel wool cut jack. I've not done a video on this guy yet, and I plan to. We'll take a look here. The Todd Begg Glimpse 7.0, the larger version, is 9 inches overall with a 3.75 inch blade and a 3.375 inch cutting edge, or, you know, basically 3.4 inch cutting edge. And, you know, you have this choil right here. This knife weighs 5.4 ounces overall. So 5.4 ounces for a 9-inch knife. I mean, you're in the same neighborhood as like the the Microtech SOCOM Elite, and another very impressive knife in terms of length and overall weight. So that's really cool. You can see there that in terms of the cutting edge, you've got still, it's substantial. It's nearly 3.5 inches of cutting edge. Put it up against the Ontario Rat number 2. You can see there, if we get it exactly butt to butt, we're still a little bit longer than the Ontario Rat 1. I always get those mixed up. This is the Rat 1, the larger guy. Let's do another knife that a lot of people are familiar with, the Kershaw Blur. And last but not least, my current EDC, because I cannot get this thing out of my pocket, the Spyderco Shaman, which is a very, very big beefy knife. Now, the Shaman feels a lot more beefy because it's shorter and has more of the, I mean, this is still a very well-made knife, but in terms of like what I mean by clunkiness is that this knife feels closer to how it looks than this one. And this one, of course, looks amazing and elegant, but just the logical part of your brain is going to tell you, well, as soon as I pick that up, it's going to be this big, like, meaty, heavy thing. And no, it's not. It's not at all. It's very, very smooth and very elegant. So that's about it for size comparisons here. The blade is CPM S35 VN. It is sort of a dropping, you know, it's not a sheep's foot, but it's a drop point blade with a large upper swedge that sort of drops down to a tip, kind of a leaf-shaped blade. You know, the overall silhouette, we're kind of doing the same thing here, but you just have a lot more going on because it's a bag. You have the classic Todd Begg fuller that's been nicely coated there, that DLC coating on the inside, and then you have the holes in there, making it easy to point out. Anybody who's a fan of Todd Begg knives will see that and say that's definitely, you wouldn't have to see the logo, you'd know right away. Then you have a nice flat satin finished flat. I don't know this for sure, but I read somewhere or watched another video that said each one of these flats, possibly the entire blade, was satin finished by hand. Again, I don't know that for sure. It wouldn't surprise me. It looks amazing. Possibly just the flats. But that may be the case on these. So that's pretty cool. Stock thickness of the blade looks to be about 0.145, or about the same thickness as your PM2 or your Spyderco Shaman. The spine of this has been nicely crowned. So you have this rounding on the back that's just real. I love that. You know, owners of a Sebenza will definitely know the joy of how that feels, and it continues all the way down the blade. Now it looks from the top, it looks like it gets super thin, and it does get pretty thin behind that tip. But you know, because of where the flat carries out right behind the fuller, you do maintain some strength and thickness behind that edge for a while. This is a hollow ground blade with a very slicey edge. Despite where it drops, which is more towards the middle of the blade, this thing is plenty sharp and plenty slicey. Very impressed with that. This does not look like it would be a functional choil, but it is. It's very deep, and it's actually pretty easy to get your finger up there. There's no jimping on the back to sort of lock in the way that you would expect, like on the Shaman. But this is actually very comfortable. You know, your second finger sort of locks in here behind the flipper tab, thumb up here, and your index finger up here. And that's very comfortable. Ergonomically, that's excellent. This is a very, very nearly fall shuddy blade. Excellent action. Very, very similar to the Quaken that I showed yesterday. These are obviously all I mean, I know I've only handled 2, but now 3 Todd Begg knives overall, including the Bugatti. These are obviously all held to the same standard of quality. I'm seeing everything flush and flawless. I mean, you can see there where the carbon fiber meets the G10 and around the pivot. There aren't any odd gaps. I just noticed that it's collared, actually. That's a G10 collar, and then the carbon fiber is set in around it. But again, I mean, more evidence towards my point here. You can see how flawless this was all done. Everything is excellent. Everything is nicely rounded off. You don't have any rough edges anywhere. Everything just looks beautiful. Absolutely perfectly centered, just like the Quaken yesterday. You can see here our lockup. And this is, to my knowledge, this is a steel liner lock, which is fine. You know, I mean, if it were titanium, then you just have the chip in there. You have a steel on steel interaction right here, and the way that they did that, I think, is excellent. That's going to decrease wear over time and give you a nice solid lockup. You do have an internal stop pin. Let's see if we can capture it. I don't know that we're going to be able to capture it. Maybe. Let's see. You can just barely see it. Right there, right behind that little ledge there, you can see the internal stop pin. More towards the back on this knife. But excellent, you know, keeping, with the same tradition of everything just looking very clean and flow through. You can see there on the inside, possibly, we have a little tiny bit of milling on those liners. Come on, knife, focus. Little teeny tiny bit of milling on the inside of the liners there. They are countersunk, much like the Shaman and the Paramilitary 2. That's going to help out a lot with weight reduction. If these were full liners, out to the lips of the G10 scales, this thing would be much, much heavier. You have a really nice area for the lanyard right here in the back. It's going to allow it to move around a little bit, but it's very unobtrusive, even less so than the Quaken that I was talking about yesterday. So that's really, really nice. You have an excellent backspacer that's also been polished and has liners around it. I mean, this whole piece sort of supports the backspacer, and that part that's sunk in or countersunk into the G10 scale actually comes out to the edge here once it sort of meets up with the backspacer, and it's very nice. It's very aesthetically pleasing. It's a nice change up as you sort of scan down the body of the knife here. 2 screws, body screws that hold both the scales and the backspacer in place, and then you have that same nice polished front to the pivot as the Quaken, and then the rear side of it is the adjustment side. You have the typical Todd Begg pocket clip with the ball bearing. Again, excellent. I mean, the entire knife is shaped in a way to kind of sit in your pants pocket very conveniently. This sort of, I called the Bugatti banana shaped. As you can see here, there's how much of the knife is sticking out of your pocket. Now maybe it's just me, but I would never guess that there was that big of a knife sitting in a pocket looking at this. So that's nice how much it actually hides, but very easy to get out and deploy. And then you have this monster folding knife that's just so, surprisingly, it's just so light. I cannot believe that. The action, of course, is perfect. You can see there, again, I almost chopped my finger off. You can see you can rock back on it or light switch any way you want, or you can do the typical sort of push button flipping action there that so many people have become familiar with. But just amazing. These knives have such amazing flipping action that anybody who's already addicted to sitting around and flipping stuff like this is just going to be, it's just going to sort of heighten your desire to do that. I mean, every time Alex hands me this, I cannot help but do this over and over and over again while I'm talking with him. It's just a joy. You can see, I mean, he's a big fella, It looks to be, the scales look to be probably 3/16, but because of that, the blade stock not being ultra thick, it does save you some size in terms of thickness. Let's actually compare it to probably the girthiest guy I've got here. I hate saying that word. I don't know why I said that. Let's compare the thickness of these two. So we're in the same ballpark. You can see there. The Glimpse is still going to be thicker overall than the Shaman, but not by much. And because of the contouring and how smooth these scales are, I can tell you that despite this thing being an ultra huge, fairly thick knife, you know, it disappears into the pocket pretty well. So if you're, you know, if you're considering going for a Glimpse, which by the way, these things run about $350, I think. If you're considering going for it, but you're a little bit scared of how thick or large it's going to be, listen, it's a big knife, you know. But if you are used to carrying knives between 8.5 and 9.25 inches, and you're worried, you know, is this one too thick? I would say no, it's not. The shape of this, you know, they took a lot of that stuff into consideration. This is a very comfortable carry. I wouldn't have a problem with that. If you are not used to big knives, I would suggest going with a smaller model because this is a big knife. Alex is a big guy, a really big guy, and this is not a knife that's going to bother him. But man, is it fun. I mean, if you're just a collector and you're somebody who enjoys, you know, a premium product and you're a big fan of flipper knives with excellent action, then definitely, absolutely. I love that he uses the typical Todd Begg fuller with the holes down here on the handle. That's nice because the handle would otherwise be, I wouldn't say boring with just carbon fiber, but there'd just be less going on. It's kind of a nice touch. I enjoy that. The pocket clip has been nicely polished. It looks really pretty in contrast with the carbon fiber in G10. I cannot get over how seamless this carbon fiber and G10 combination is. I mean, it's a testament to how well or how much care was put into these during the process of making them. I mean, it really is amazing. And I was on the fence, you know, for a long time about any knife, despite it doesn't matter who the original manufacturer was, but anybody who was collaborating with a company that wasn't manufacturing these knives in the United States. And I thought there's no way it can't be quite as good. It is. In fact, I dare say it is better than a lot of the knives that I have come to love so much in this exact same price range. Do I think that these are functional, durable pieces? Yeah. I think they're absolutely 100% functional. You know, somebody made a comment the other day that these knives in comparison with Rick Hinder knives are more of art pieces and the Rick Hinder is more of the hard use user. You know, maybe a little bit, but it's not, there's not such a gap there. It kind of seemed like you might be describing a large gap between what you could use these for. No, these are plenty durable. The build quality on them is excellent. And I think you could go out and, if you really wanted to use this hard, yeah, you have nice thick G10 and carbon fiber scales that are contoured to fit your hand perfectly. You've got CPM S35V steel in a blade that is ground to absolutely be used. Yeah, it's definitely pretty, but this is definitely a functional blade shape as well. Plus you have reliable blade seating and solid lockup every single time. This is one of those knives where I think it's almost impossible for it not to deploy. I mean, here, case in point, straight up and down, and I'm going to actually cat's paw hold it, and I'm going to apply as little pressure as I can. Yeah, you actually can't not deploy this. I don't think it's possible. That's as light as I can push it. I'm not joking around here. That's how good the action is on this thing. It's incredible. These are amazing pieces. I love this. And David, again, amazingly generous gifts from you, and good picks too. These are excellent, and I think very, very loved by the knife community. So if you enjoyed this video, that's pretty much it for today, guys. You know, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you like all my content, then please subscribe to my channel because there's definitely more coming. A little preview of what's to come. Ricky has a really cool Spyderco that's coming. Of course, again, Ricky's got another Spyderco that's coming to the channel, so that's coming up. I am going to take a closer look at the steel wheel cut jack. I'm very late on that. And then I have another surprise knife that really kind of blew me away and shocked me, and that's coming up on the channel as well. Very unexpected for me, but it's going to be shown here. So anyways, again, hope you enjoyed the video and have a great day.